Wrestling with Rosenberg. I'm Peter Rosenberg, and my lord, the WWE champion, and a guy I've wanted to talk to for a long time, CM Punk is here today. How are you, sir?
I'm lovely. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm fantastic. I've wanted to get a hold of you since, of course, the epic night of the legendary promo last summer. I had actually been going through a rough period in my life, and that was maybe the first thing that really cheered me up last summer. Was seeing that promo. It was such a night. My fiance's sitting there going, what's happening? What's happening? And I was trying to explain to her that this middle ground of like, well, no, you don't understand. This is he's really exposing things that are real right now, but it's still an awesome storyline. And did you realize when you did that promo that you were kind of getting into that territory of legendary wrestling status as far as a moment?
No, because it wasn't my design to have this be a platform to even continue my career. I was done. That was my last Monday Night Raw. You know, I was going overseas the next day. We were doing a tour of Australia and New Zealand, and I was coming back. And I'm sorry, that was my second to last Raw. We were coming back doing TV in Boston, and then I had the pay-per-view. So to me, I was legit. Like, I'm already on the pay-per-view. What are they going to fire me 2 weeks before I do it? I figure they're going to take me off the international tour, and there was nothing they could do. There was no repercussions for my actions. So I just went out there and I said what I felt. I spoke from the heart.
And you didn't seem nervous. You did not seem you weren't scared about the like just Vince's reaction when you walked back through the curtain after doing that?
No. I was legit. I was prepared to fight people. I thought maybe it would come to that, but and maybe 10, 20 years ago I certainly probably would have had to have, but it's a different company now.
Yeah. It is slightly different. Okay, the biggest gripe I think people had was that you returned so quickly.
Yeah,
and that seems to be there are like 2 or 3 steps in which people would say it didn't turn out the way we maybe dreamed it would turn out. Mm-hmm. Did you want to come back as quickly as you did?
No.
You wanted to actually milk this for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think there's things we could have done, and another time in another place we could have done it, but I think what everyone needs to realize, and it's what I realized, is that SummerSlam needed a main event. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. There's situations that, it could always be done better, but we run 52 live Monday Night Raws a year, and you need content. And right now the roster is so thin. That promo catapulted me into an area that I'd never been before. So it almost, like overnight, I became the guy. They needed me, And
so what was that like? What was that next meeting like when you knew they needed you? I mean,
it's interesting, it's very, very interesting. And I mean, to say that promo changed my life would probably be an understatement, because it changed it professionally. It changed it personally. I mean, I get recognized all the time. Me and you, prior to this off camera, had a conversation about how when you're a wrestler, in some circles you're the biggest celebrity in the world. I could be standing next to Jay-Z or Mick Jagger, and somebody would be like, holy crap, it's CM Punk. And then there's other instances where I can walk freely about and nobody recognizes me, nobody cares, which is preferable. But after that promo, I can't go anywhere, even to this day. I can't go anywhere, and it's awesome, but it has its downsides too. But to me, it's all positive, because I still think I'm helping facilitate change.
When you got back though, and then a few weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, it started to feel like, all right, we're now used to the fact that CM Punk is the top guy. Did any concern or frustration set in about like, I don't want to just have this become a part of regular programming now? Because then you end up being a part of storylines that are just regular storylines. It's no longer this big thing. How do you avoid getting caught in just the kind of regular trappings of doing a weekly television show, which is what this is?
You know what? I don't know if you can. I don't know if I do avoid any of that. I just always consciously try to stay a little bit edgy, and that is always a battle with The Office. You know, I always do. I don't ask to do things. I just apologize for them afterwards. I still do and say things that piss people off. You know, I'm not doing anything that I know is against like FCC regulations, or I'm not trying to anger sponsors or anything like that. But I know that I have to be, different than everybody else, and I have to go out there and I have to be me. And I know what works and I know what doesn't. So it's always that interesting dichotomy of, hey, we want you to say this, and I go, okay, and I rip it up and I quietly.
How much do you have to do now of what's written versus what's?
I don't have to do anything that's written.
At this, you have that carte blanche to decide what you want to use.
Here's the funny thing: I don't think anybody has to do what's written. Everybody is so petrified to rock the boat, or they're not skilled enough to do their own stuff. Like, people get handed stuff, and I honestly, truly believe that across the board, it's a suggestion. It's up to you to put it into your words. It's up to you to do, what you want. There's been times when I get handed stuff and I go, I can't do, and it changes the entire show. Let's do this, and and they're now very receptive to. They listen to me.
So I guess the difference is, if you're going to change something, just make it good. It better be something that's good and not worse than what was written.
That's the thing, and that's the hardest thing to me that you learn in this business, and that's what I tell young guys all the time. That you just have to know. You just have to know what's good and what sucks. And sometimes you're wrong, but I say I got the best guts in the business, and if my brain disagrees with my guts, I always just go with my gut.
What is your gut telling you about the situation with Chris Jericho and how special that could be? I mean, this seems like something that people could be very, very excited about.
I think it could be very, very special. I think if we handle it the right way, everybody's so fickle though, I read online, somebody said that I'm sick of Punk and Jericho already. And the genius about that is we haven't done anything yet, like
it hasn't started.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant that he's already so mad and he's already so over this. Like we haven't even done anything yet.
How do you respond though? Even like, I'm sure on the comments on this video as it sits on YouTube right this very second will be people who have never been near Gorilla, never been near anything in the wrestling business, pontificating about how things should be done and handled. And that's not to say that there aren't people who really know wrestling, because I do resent the idea that you have to be because as you know better than anyone, there are plenty of hacks who have been in the business for 40 years and don't know anything about a good storyline. So it's not to say that there aren't people who have a smart idea online, but every person now who's a smart wrestling fan has a really strong opinion about how everything should be done.
And more power to them. But you could take any one of those people and you can give them the position of booker, and they would lose their mind. They don't realize that all the little intricate things that go into putting stuff together, and on top of that, we worry about ratings in this company, which to me is madness at this point. Ratings don't mean anything except to the sponsors, which is why we do it, because we want to keep the sponsors happy. But ratings, it's like you read breakdowns of ratings, and I just think everyone loves being negative. Everyone loves, they shouldn't have done that. Punk came back too soon. They did it, and it's just like, shut up and enjoy it. I know sometimes it gets really, really bad, and then you can be vocal about that, but it's just like nobody lets anything play out. They forget. It's like they almost forget that there's going to be a Raw next week.
It's gonna keep going.
Oh, this is so bad! I can't believe they did that. And then next week they'll be like, wow, that was great. I shouldn't have jumped the gun. And if people would let stuff play out, just kind of sit back and watch what happens with me and Jericho.
What's your relationship like with old Hunter Hearst Helmsley?
It's pretty good, I think.
Seems solid.
Yeah.
No awkwardness after the people can act a certain way about cutting a promo on them and their wife.
Yeah, and honestly, I guess I'll never really truly know, but we have a good open relationship, I guess. We talk. he's very knowledgeable about the business, and he's in a spot where, you know, he knows a lot of stuff about the behind the scenes stuff that I'm fascinated about, and I pick his brain about that stuff.
I mean, he's been around for a while now. When you look up, he's been around for a while, and he's someone who does catch from the internet. People love to hate on Triple H and how he's just, you know, ransacked the business. This is a guy who actually is pretty knowledgeable.
Well, he's in a position, and now I'm in a position where I can ask him questions. I can ask him like, okay, I don't understand why we put a guy like Brodus on TV, and then he's been off TV for 2 weeks. Like, you know,
very confusing to the fans.
Explain that, right? Explain that to me, Hunter. You know, and then he tells me, and it's like, okay, I see that, I get that. You know, but you know, we're not just catering to the people who are, you know, probably watching this. Right? You know, we're catering to a much wider audience. So it's just like, yeah, we get a lot of criticism levied towards us, him in particular, from the people who, you know, are very much smart to the business. You know, so like I said, everyone has a voice. Everyone's got an opinion. A
buddy of mine asked me about. We're just coming off Elimination Chamber right now, which was a interesting pay-per-view. But a friend of mine who used to write for the company said that you were involved in a pay-per-view, an Elimination Chamber back in 2006, that he thought you'd have strong feelings about. That originally the current champion, which I believe was Big Show, it was supposed to lose the title in the first 5 minutes, ensuring that there would be a new champion.
Yep.
And at the last minute, this idea was nixed, and shortly thereafter, Paul Heyman left the company. What do you remember about that fateful Elimination Chamber back in 2006?
I think you could sum up CM Punk in a nutshell, like on that day. And it's the funny thing is like I haven't changed. You know, I was this way when I was 15. I was this way at that day, and I'm that way now. And I think it's funny. You could probably just remember feeling so strongly about something and just walking into Vince's office. I'd been on TV for 4 months. And I walked in and I was just basically like, yeah, can I talk to you? He was like, yeah, sure. What's on your mind? And I just said, this finish sucks. It's terrible. Like it's doing nobody any favors, you know? And we have an idea that gets everybody over and gives everybody direction to go in. And here it is. Like, and in one night I'd be made, and I'd have somebody to work with going forward. And, you know, you can make Bobby Lashley, and he has somebody going forward to work with. And, you know, and I don't think he knew what to do with me. He just looked at me like, well, let me explain to you why we're doing what we're doing. And he gave me his, you know, explanation, and I just, cool. Like, well, it's your company. I just respectfully disagree. Thank you. You know? And then I think that was the first time that I was thrown in the doghouse, so to speak.
How long were you in the doghouse?
I think the next day on TV, like, Bob Holly beat me in like a short amount of time.
So is that what happens though? You show up the next day to tapings or whatever, and you see the matches, and you're like, oh God, and then you know, like, this isn't good.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do?
And then it must be such a weird feeling, because like even right now, like I'll watch the way certain storylines are going, and I think all of us, for example, Mark Henry, all of us, I think a lot of big wrestling fans were so excited because like out of nowhere, there's this great guy who's been around forever, but becomes like the best heel I've seen in a long time, like a pure, really pure, scary monster that like is legitimately, you know, kids are like, boo, boo, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
And I know there was things with him with injuries and whatnot, but still you kind of watch what's happening and you see match, and you're like, oh man, he's not going to be the same. He just inherently is going to be the same. And I wonder for a guy like him or for anyone else in that situation, when you show up, what that feeling's like to be like, man, this isn't continuing the way it was.
Well, I've always said that I've worked very, very hard. I think everybody's worked super, super hard to get to where they're at. I think staying there is infinitely harder, you know, because there's all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that goes on, and everyone has their allies and their detractors. It just never lasts for anybody, you know. It really doesn't. And I think, I don't know, he got hurt, I know that, and like going back to the roster is so thin, like he got hurt, so I think he was gonna go away for a bit, and you know, it's just like, okay, we find out you're not as hurt as hurt as we thought. We still need you. But now it's in this limited capacity, and that obviously takes a little bit of the luster off his recent run, which is awesome.
Well, again, I know nothing. I know nothing except what I feel like as a fan. But of course,
stuff. Come on.
I'm watching and I go, well, listen, if he has the title at the time, which he did, and he's beat up, take him off TV with the title. It doesn't matter. The champion can always. God, you remember Ric Flair? Ric Flair would show up. He wouldn't have to wrestle at all. You can just show up with the title and be the champion. He had nothing to prove. He's Mark Henry. He's the world's strongest man. Everyone's in the Hall of Pain. He has nothing to do. And I felt like this chase where then we eventually see Daniel Bryan versus Mark Henry, and Daniel Bryan eventually overcomes him at WrestleMania would have been an epic, epic moment. I do love the new Daniel Bryan character, but I think that still could have happened in time.
Eventually, sure.
Yeah. I was looking for that moment to see where Mark Henry as that monster would have lost at a major moment, and it would have been really, really special. And I think those are the moments that we all crave. And you gave us one of those. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view was special. I mean, what was that? What was the energy like in Chicago that night? Because on TV, it was, we were all sitting around. I rarely have like parties for an event, but I had like 7 wrestling geeks over that night, right? And we're like, it felt like before a Tyson fight. Like when it showed the crowd beforehand, it had the energy of a Tyson fight, if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
What did it feel like in the arena when you came out in your hometown for that?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy, and it's one of those moments that is absolutely surreal. And I sometimes I get kind of, weird talking about stuff like this, but we're backstage, and I think Randy and Christian were before us, and the producers like to kind of write stuff down that you're doing so they can feed it to the truck so they can get the right camera shot, which is another thing that a lot of fans don't realize, like there's a billion
how many details have to happen to make everything work.
Like it's a TV show, it's a sports broadcast,
it's live,
it's everything. And we had from when Johnny Ace got involved, and Vince and stuff like that, we had that stuff mapped out and talked about, but we had about 45 minutes, and they're like, what do you guys got? And Cena goes, talk to the guy, and I think I looked at Michael Hayes and I was like, we got nothing. And he's like, guys, I gotta get something, what are you gonna blah blah blah. And then we were like, it's live, what are you gonna do? We're just gonna go out there and we're gonna see what happens. And that, I think those are the best situations. That's old school. That's the way they used to do it, And
it felt that way.
Mission accomplished then.
I remember you guys were grappling at the beginning, like you were getting each other in holds, and I was like, whoa, what is happening?
Mind-boggling. I know. It's like one of the first times I was given the 45 minutes, and I went, I don't think I need all that time, but I'm sure as hell going to take it, because I think I'm much better. I'm like the old school Greg Valentine, he's not going to get warmed up until about 20 minutes into the match. So I finally was presented with that situation, and I ran with it. I had a ball. It was so much fun.
And I want to give props to John Cena, because I could tell that he'd handed it to you. There was a real sense that he knew it wasn't his moment that night. And I really commended someone who's had the spotlight for so long, clearly knowing when it was time to let someone else do it. I thought that was very cool. You could feel it.
I love the CM Punk John Cena dichotomy. I love it. And here's another behind the scenes thing. It's just people want to. I think people want to kind of see that, but the reason you don't see that on screen is because it very much is a business. I'm the first guy to sell him merchandise wise in I don't know how long. 6 years. Nobody's come close. And I beat him. So it's just you put the two guys together, the fans have to choose one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And especially the little kids. And the little kids are going to choose John, 100%. So they had to keep us apart, and they still have to keep us apart. But to me, as the old school wrestling fan who loves good Bill Watts UWF and old school NWA and stuff like that, to me, the fantasy booking is John Cena and CM Punk, because to me and I'm a comic book nerd, but to me he's very much Superman and I'm very much Batman. Two good guys, so to speak. Very, very different though. And there's a thing where, you know, Batman can kick Superman's ass, but like on paper you would never think that. And I just think that's a hell of a story. I think it's very interesting, and I'm probably certain we'll revisit that.
I was going to say,
eventually.
as we end, I'm pretty sure we'll see that happen again one day. But
Can't wait. It'd be fun.
hey, it was a real pleasure, and I'll see you down there at WrestleMania 28 in Miami, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Thank you, buddy.
No, pleasure's all mine.